I would love to hear from you, your stories, your confessions and experiences. If the hoarding person is you, or maybe you live with a hoarder, what kind of problems does it cause? And why do you think you have that problem? 01904 641 641. We're going to get some very practical advice about decluttering in a few minutes' time. But first, let's talk to Dr. Stuart Whomsley, who is a clinical psychologist, and one of his areas of specialism is the whole issue of hoarding. Good morning, nice to see you again.
Hi, Jonathan.
I should say that since our last consultation, things have got no better with me. And you've just produced your booklet there, which I recognise. It's your hoarding guidelines.
Yes.
And as you left the studio last time, which was over a year ago, I think you gave me a copy of that, and I took it home and I read it, and it's there on the shelf, and it's become part of the hoarding problem.
Yes.
Tell me about you and hoarding. Where did your interest in it as a subject start?
Yeah, well, I became interested in hoarding because I worked as a clinical psychologist in an assertive outreach team with people who experience psychosis. That's a diagnosis of schizophrenia. And by the nature of assertive outreach with this client group, we were doing all the work visiting people in their homes. So instead of the usual work of a psychologist or therapist, I was no longer like in a clinic room. I was visiting people in their homes, and a number of the people I was seeing, it was clear they had this hoarding problem as well. So I got interested in trying to help them with that. And at that time, the sort of mainstream in this country models for understanding hoarding was that it was a form of OCD, but the theoretical OCD models didn't quite fit.
OCD being obsessive compulsive disorder, right?
Because you can actually get people who have OCD and hoarding, but they're not necessarily the same thing. So my interest was trying to work out theoretically what was going on for these people and try and help them.
Just how extreme can hoarding get? I mean, quite obviously, you going out into the community, doing your work in the community, you saw this, you recognised it as a problem, but just how much of an issue can it be at its most extreme?
It can get very extreme, and this is the thing with this, that it's a continuum. Psychologists like continuums, and we're all on it. I'm on it. You're on it. And there's the sort of the cluttery, messy bit. But when it gets to the real extreme, it's like where the person's house is no longer functional as a house. Like they don't sleep in their beds often because their beds have become a storage space. Everything in the house becomes, this is somewhere I can put a thing. So all the chairs are covered, there's stuff in bags piling up, bin bags, you often have to make your way through sort of little corridors through the rubbish, sort of quite health and safety risks. Quite extreme. And anybody living with the person, it completely alters the quality of their life. Bathrooms non-functional. I've found lawnmowers stored in the bath because
a lawnmower
in the bath, yeah. And all sorts of other things, lots of huge piles of toilet rolls and cleaning products, just piled up, so you can't actually get in.
I don't know whether there is a simple answer to this question. Why do people do it? Why have I got shirts at home that I will never wear because they are a size 14.5 collar, and these days I'm a size 16.5 collar? Why do people hang on to stuff? I mean, I suppose as you say, it's a continuum. There's me just never getting round to doing it, and then the thought, well, actually, if I spend time doing this, it's time I'm not doing something else, so I feel jealous about the time. But there is a continuum between me with that situation and then a woman I heard about a few years ago who could not bear to throw away the container that butter or margarine had been in, and at least one part of her house was completely occupied with this.
Yeah.
And is there a reason that people do this?
Well, I think, as your situation, a bit like my situation, that kind of you've got a bit bigger than you used to be, and you've got an aspiration that you're going to be thin one day, and then one day those other shirts are going to be useful again. To where, so that's all about what our beliefs are about ourselves. Likewise with that woman, there'll be some beliefs that we have to find out about why she needs to hang on to these things. So it might be that, if she lets them go, they might be harming the environment, or they're going to come in useful someday. And often when it gets to that extreme, in my experience, it will be a very large percentage that they also have another psychological problem that they need help with, say a bereavement issue or an attachment issue. You often find that it's kind of like it's a loss that kind of that pushes the person, or a trauma.
Can it be something to do with someone's someone's background or upbringing? Because I'm thinking that there is a sort of something which I'm sure loads of people will identify with. There's a generation of people who grew up during really hard times when you didn't throw a bit of string away, you wrapped it on that ball of string that kept growing and growing and growing in the kitchen drawer. There are people who could never throw a brown paper bag away, so you flattened it out and again you put it in the kitchen drawer, and you just kept on doing it time after time after time, because you might need a brown paper bag, and we're in times of rationing, so why throw brown paper bags away? Save brown paper bags for Britain. And there's almost like a hangover of that sort of make do and mend mentality.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much like the kind of the person's individual beliefs influenced by what's going on culturally. So that kind of wartime mentality about saving stuff. I mean, my mum was a big one for jam jars. Yeah. For no apparent reason, jam jars in the shed. But the other thing is that what came after that was sort of consumerism from the States, in terms of like just buying more and more and more, and sort of things that would sort of built to break and be replaced and keep up to date. So there's kind of a combination maybe of the two. Yeah,
well, you do see quite a lot of shows on television these days, actually, where, and this goes to what Hannah is going to be talking about, our guest on the programme in a minute or two's time, the decluttering industry that has grown up. But, the people that... It's almost as consumerism run rampant. You get the opportunity to buy something. It's relatively cheap. You think it's a bargain, so you'll have one and you'll have another, or maybe you'll buy 3, or maybe you'll buy 6 because it's worth having.
Yeah, I mean, particularly what I see, say, with people where it's a clinical hoarding problem, is where that they sort of. They're sort of to manage their moods because of other issues. They might be people who shop a lot, more than just the general retail therapy, but like every time they go out, they will go to the charity shop and buy lots.
Oh, that's me again.
Lots of things that they don't actually need, that they then take home, and it was the buying of them that was the thing to lift their mood. And so it's sort of like binge shopping. And once they get home, they just put them in the bags.
So what's going on? I identify with that, and I bet lots of people listening this morning do. There's almost like, what is it? You would call it almost like a caveman urge. Yeah. So you go out, you wander the plains, and unless you come back to your cave with some animal that you've sort of shot with an arrow or banged over the head, and unless you come back to the cave and say, look, this is what I have brought back, this is what we shall have for our meal tonight, there's almost a feeling that if you don't come back with some kind of trophy, you've failed. Yeah,
pretty much so. And I say, but as well, in the last sort of 50 or so years, that's been added to by advertising and PR media, saying, you must buy, you must acquire stuff.
How do you help people? I mean, you are a clinical psychologist. How do you? There are so many different facets of this, and you must have to analyse what it is from a particular individual, what their hoarding motivation or stimulation is. How do you start to help?
Well, the start point, I suppose, like with most clinical psychology work, is like a thorough assessment, but it usually goes down 2 lines. One being about finding out what the other issue is that's involved, say the bereavement, and helping them with that, and then with the hoarding, having sort of specific CBT, clinical cognitive behavioural therapy approaches for the acquiring of stuff, the organising of stuff, and the discarding of stuff, because generally the people have got problems in those 3 areas, the different components. So it's kind of bringing too much stuff in, how they organise it, and getting rid of stuff, because sometimes I've worked with people and actually it's not so much they've got too much stuff, it's just that it's like a child can make a mess with a few things. They've got the ability to just get everything everywhere.
Oh dear, it's like you're looking into my darkest secret soul here. Anne from Knaresborough says, to hear Jonathan is a hoarder is the best thing she's heard in a while. Oh, thanks a bunch, Anne. But actually, no, she's been very sympathetic. It's the best thing she's heard in a while, and it makes her feel less odd, because she is also a hoarder herself. She's completely opposite to her sister. Anne, just can't throw anything away. Anne used to have shoes going all the way up the stairs. Some don't even fit. She just likes them. Is that strange, or is that just like completely normal to someone like you who's used to dealing with people like me and Anne?
Well, I mean, those kind of different takes on our possessions and what we do with them are sort of kind of common with people who are hoarding. There can be a fine line between like a hoarder and a collector.
Yeah.
You know, so someone can like form a collection of shoes because they like the look of the shoes, but then it's like, yeah, but are you actually going to wear these? And it's just the look of them.
Yeah, collecting almost becomes an excuse, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right, we will leave it for the moment. More to come from Dr. Stuart Whomsley in a few minutes' time. If you've got a question you want to put to him or an issue you want to discuss, call me. It's 01904 641 641. Hannah Young, who is an expert in decluttering, is going to be joining us in a moment or two's time. 01904 641. The Mamas and the Papas and Monday. Thank you very much indeed for all your calls and comments this morning. Oh, it's magnificent. I feel like I'm certainly not alone in my hoarding habit. We've heard from Stuart, and we'll come back to Dr. Whomsley in a few minutes' time. We're talking about hoarding and also what I suppose is the opposite, which is decluttering. One woman who's made it her business to help people declutter their homes and their lives is Hannah Young from Revive Your Space, which is based in York. And Hannah is a member of the Association of Professional Declutterers and Organisers. Is that right?
Indeed. Good morning, Jonathan.
Good morning. Welcome to BBC Radio York. I had no idea the Association of Professional Declutterers and Organisers.
Yes, it's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it?
It is, really. It's not snappy. How long's that been on the go?
A good few years now. I think over 10 years or so. I've been a member for the last couple of years. And
are you very busy? Are people constantly calling on you to come and take charge?
Yeah, so I'm gradually building up my business. So I work part-time at the moment, and that works okay for me. But other people are completely inundated and have long waiting lists, I have to say.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? That, I mean, I'm sure you're very, very good at what you do. Obviously you are, but it's extraordinary that some people get to the stage where they need or want a professional person to come in and do this for them.
Yes, it's been very popular over in the States, and it's gradually coming in over here, so people are finding out about it a little bit more. And obviously with these lovely hoarding programmes that we have on TV, people's awareness is being raised. I would say most of my clients are just regular people. Pretty much all of us have too much stuff, and it can be really helpful to have an impartial eye, so that's where we come in, someone just to give you a second look over your things, give you a helping hand, help you clear some of the things, some of those shirts, Jonathan, that you maybe don't need anymore.
How does it work? How does the actual business of decluttering come about? Well, first of all, what makes people reach the crisis point where they think they need you?
Yeah, so it'll be different things for different people. Sometimes people will be at a change point in their life, so they've just had a new baby, all the baby stuff has exploded over the house and they realise they need to take control of it. And for other people it might be a house move, so they're wanting to pack up their belongings or maybe get sorted at the other end in a new house. For other people it might be bereavement, and they're suddenly faced with maybe their parents' home full of possessions, and they need to sort through things. So people will ring me or email me, then I'll book in a free initial consultation with them where I go into their home. So
and do you walk
similar to Stuart.
Yeah. And do you walk in, how often do you walk in and go,
You know, I've got a very good poker face now, Jonathan, because
so nothing phases you?
Yeah, so nothing phases me. You know, we're all different and people have come to me for help, and so that's what I would like to be able to do for them.
Have you ever actually walked into a situation and thought, what's your problem? Because I had a friend who would say that they were... Stuart, you were talking about obsessive-compulsive disorder. I had a friend and she was a clean freak. It was her own words, not very nice, but she used it of herself. Everything had to be minimal, tidy, so very, very tidy. She was a smoker. If she put a cigarette out in an ashtray, once she'd put it out, she immediately had to take the ashtray out and put the cigarette stub and the ash in the bin and wash the ashtray and bring it back. She couldn't live with that.
That's certainly the other extreme, isn't it? Yes, absolutely.
It is. So do you ever walk into people's homes and think, what's the issue here?
I have certainly been into one client's house and I thought, your house is tidier than my house. But she did have the one room, as many of us do have, the spare room. And that had a lot of historical items in there that we needed to go through.
Yeah.
So while most of her house was absolutely fine, this one room was jam-packed full of various things that did take a while to go through.
The room of shame, we call it. Stuart, what's your observation on the fact that, you know, these days we actually have an industry, someone like Hannah bringing her expertise to helping people, not who've maybe got the sort of profound psychological problem that you've been dealing with, but it's actually turned into a business.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing in many ways, because it helps me in my work work, because where people have more severe difficulties, it is more useful if, we've got sort of people doing the hands-on work with them. Also, people are not adverse to, having someone coming in doing the week-to-week cleaning. Where this is sort of just, it could be thought of as a stage beyond that someone's doing that, sort of like a real sort of audit and clear out of your things. And, and people have, gardeners in to sort of tidy up their garden and get that sorted, so likewise, in a similar way, having someone in to sort of garden your house, tidy it up. And
you're a house gardener.
Yeah, I like that. I like that phrase. Yeah, I think it is a life skill.
It's copyright, Dr. Stuart Whomsley there.
I think it is a life skill that we often haven't learned. And again, what you were saying earlier, Stuart, about that legacy of that wartime effort of keeping on to everything in case it might come in handy, and then followed by that consumerist, in the 80s, and then all this disposable stuff that's relatively cheap. We can just fill our homes. We've got bigger homes than we used to have. And then we get to the point where, our big homes suddenly seem like small homes because we've filled them with stuff.
You've only got to look, actually, I'm just thinking about it, leading high street stores and Scandinavian furniture makers. It is a story of storage, isn't it? There's a whole section in the brochure. There's a whole section in the shop, whichever shop is. It's all about storage. It's plastic crates to put things in.
One of the first bits of advice I give to all of my clients is declutter first, storage second, because it can be so tempting to go shopping and go into all these lovely shops with these beautiful storage containers and buy what you think you need, and then you come home, and I've definitely seen many people that have a cupboard full of boxes with nothing in the boxes. So the intention's there, but they've just started in the wrong order.
Yeah, or you just use the fact that you've got the storage as an excuse not to face up to the things that you've got. So you don't deal with the things, you just work out another way of packing them away.
Yeah, and I always say every piece of clutter is a delayed decision.
Dr. Whomsley nods sagely there. It's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's true. How do you actually do it? Because I can imagine that I couldn't actually be present. Presumably you have to have your client, the cluttered person, present.
Absolutely.
But I mean, do people go, I can't throw that away? And you're saying, look, we've established it doesn't fit. You've got 6 like it already. You don't need it. It's in tatters. You haven't worn it for 10 years. Let me throw it away for you. And I can imagine people, no, please, Anna, don't do it.
The whole thing is very much a process. So, the first step in the process will be them thinking at home, this is too much for me. Then the second step might be having a look on the internet to see if there's anyone that can help. Then they'll get in touch with me. Then they'll meet me in their home. And at that point, they can still say, actually, no, I don't want to do this. But usually by the time I've met the person in their home, they're then actually ready to start the process. And we warm up. We start with the easy things. Yeah, if there's something that's really difficult, we leave that to one side, and we'll leave that till next week or next month. And we'll start with the easy things. And, people warm into it, definitely, and they see what a big difference having 2 pairs of hands sorting through things can make, and we can really speed through things.
Stuart, can you hear the crossover here between what you do, which is dealing with people's psychological issues about hoarding, and what Hannah is doing, which is the practical face-to-face assistance with actually sorting it out, maybe rather than what you would do, which is go into the reasons people do it. This is the hands-on practicality of let's get shot of it.
I mean, I think what the overlap area, one of the overlap areas is about developing good working relationships with the person and taking things at their pace. So what I might be doing in trying to help a person understand why they've got things, and teaching them skills in terms of how they might, say, organise things or challenge buying new things. It's a similar thing here with what you're doing as a declutterer in terms of
trust. Is that what we're talking
trust,
about?
Yeah,
it's
trust.
Yeah, it's such a personal thing, isn't it, to talk to people and to go through their possessions.
Let's talk to somebody who's called the programme this morning. It's Hazel who is with us on the line. If you would like to pop your headphones on, you'll be able to hear what Hazel's saying. Morning, Hazel.
Morning, Jonathan.
Are you a hoarder?
I'm not a hoarder, but my husband was.
Go on. He's no longer with us, is he?
No, he's no longer with us. I'm trying to sort my garage out. He saved everything. I done his office out, and I got rid of loads of stuff in there, but there's still stuff to get rid of in there. The garage is full of paperwork from Terry, and you know how long Terry's been dead.
Yes, quite a number of years now.
And I'm pulling stuff out from there. There must be about 24 boxes in there full of papers to burn. I've got halfway down to the bottom of the garage, and I've come across a set of drawers, a bookshelf, and everything, and string, and toolboxes. Must be a dozen toolboxes in there. And 2 toolboxes never even been used. I gave them to my neighbours.
It sounds like you're dealing okay. It sounds like you're doing it.
Yeah, but there's only one thing. My attic is like Aladdin's cave, and I can't get up there.
Right.
There's tables up there, there's stools up there, there's lights up there, there's hundreds of Christmas trees up there, there's bedding up there, curtains where my husband just put everything up in the attic.
Why do you think he did it?
I don't know, he was a hoarder. He saved everything. I mean, there's paperwork I've come across from 1992.
Yeah.
Which is kept.
I could take you back to paperwork from the early 80s if you wanted.
And I found in the garage a box of tapes, music tapes.
Yeah.
Who has a tape recorder now?
No means to play them, but you've still got them. I've got a whole box full.
Yeah,
Somewhere in there, there's something absolutely prized that nobody else has got, and I'm not going to throw those tapes away.
Well, that's what I keep looking at.
How difficult is it? Because, I mean, you're talking now about the possessions of 2 people who were absolutely at the centre of your life. You love both of these guys tremendously. Yeah. How difficult is it, Hazel, to get rid of their stuff?
It's very difficult. It's brings tears every time I'm moving. In fact, I'm filling up now. I mean, having to get rid of his computer and everything like that. You know, it was hard. And his organ, he had an organ that he could carry around, and all his music books and his Bibles and everything. I've had to get rid of most of them, but I've kept one Bible, which was he used to take to church with him. I've kept that one.
Stuart, what's your
all his clothes and
clothes? Just tell me about clothes.
Well,
have you still got them or?
No, I gave them all to charity, to the Heart Foundation.
Stuart, you did mention when we were talking initially about the issue of bereavement.
Yeah, I mean, I think bereavement can often be, a trigger for someone to get involved in sort of their sort of holding on to stuff behaviour to become a full-scale sort of clinical hoarding problem. I mean, I think Hazel, though, here isn't a hoarder. You know, she's doing really, really well with, getting rid of stuff from her husband, who probably was a bit of at least over-cluttered, maybe a hoarder, we don't know. So here it's that challenge of that Hazel's actually doing, something that hoarders would have found really hard. You know, they'd have been really tempted, or would have kept everything, as opposed to that was really good. I'm going to keep one Bible, something to remember them by. It's like, don't get rid of everything, but just get something that serves the function of remembering the person, rather than if they've got 5 Bibles, don't keep all 5. Just keep the one. So she's actually doing a really good job.
Hannah, what's your observation on this? Because what we're talking about here is not just the hoarding business. We're keeping all these things because we want all these things. Now there is this additional layer across the top that these things have a particular emotional attachment. Apart from the sort of the bizarre, I must hoard all these things, they've got an emotional attachment because they belong to someone who I love very much, who isn't here anymore. Yes,
it's very much part of the grieving process, isn't it? And I absolutely agree with what Stuart's just said. Well done to Hazel for hanging on to the one Bible but getting rid of the rest of them. Decluttering isn't about getting rid of everything. We need stuff around us, and it's nice to have some mementos, some sentimental items of loved ones or places we've been to, but just not a whole house full,
No.
Well, I've still got his army uniform in the wardrobe. I don't know what to do with that.
That's difficult, isn't it?
It's very difficult.
Because army was and military things were part of your lives, weren't they?
Yeah.
Hazel, it sounds like you're doing a good thing.
Oh, thank you.
Slowly but surely.
Slowly but surely, yeah.
Thanks for coming on the programme.
Hazel.
Good luck.
Bye-bye.
There's the message. Yeah, lots of support from people in the studio this morning. Let's talk to another caller. It's Barry, who's on the line from Thirst. Good morning, Barry.
Morning, Jonathan.
Are you confessing up to being a hoarder?
I'm a compulsive hoarder. I'm an addictive hoarder.
What do you hoard?
Anything and everything. I mean, I grew up during the war years, so you didn't throw anything away because you couldn't get anything. So, like you say, string, rubber bands, paper clips, anything and everything was of value.
You can walk out of your door in the centre of Thirsk, and within 3 minutes, you can buy a rubber band, you can buy a piece of string, you can buy a paper clip. Why keep them all?
Don't ask me. Excuse me. And until Eileen died, nearly 16 years ago, I still got clothes of hers, like, other callers. It's very hard to part. I've actually taken some to the charity shop, but I have arranged with two of Eileen's daughters to come and take the rest, because it's hard to part with all those sort of things.
So let's just talk. Thank you, Barry. Just stay with us a second. I just want to talk to my guest this morning about that crunch moment, that hard to part with moment. Stuart, I mean, that second when somebody says, all right, I know it's bonkers that I have had this ball of string that's been growing since 1938 in the kitchen drawer. Let's just throw it away. Or, that was her favourite blouse, but I accept that she's never going to wear it again. It should go. What's that moment like? Is it a traumatic moment or is it a cathartic moment?
I mean, it can be both. I mean, certainly the thing with, say, particularly clothes of loved ones who died, it's better, the sooner the better. Because close to the event, you've got a lot of other emotions and intensity and the sense of dealing with what's going on. But if you let it go on for like a year or more, things become more of a relic. Become even more sort of sacred. So I've seen this with people who have had a bereavement and have dealt with it really quickly, and that goes a lot better than, say, people when it's like 5 years down the line. It is then so much harder to distinguish with what they're going to keep and what not.
It's that Miss Havisham moment, isn't it, from Dickens? It's the fact that she's still wearing the wedding dress from when that wedding never took place all those decades earlier. Hannah, what's been your experience of particularly that, of the crunch moment when you actually say to somebody, yes, is this it? Is this really going now?
Yeah, of course it's difficult. I would say if you've got family or friends that can come in and help you, be a support, cry with you, hold your hand and be part of that process, then that can be really helpful.
Do you actually see that happen?
Yes, absolutely. And it is a difficult process, but it's one that needs working through.
So it doesn't mean people are weird or odd?
Oh, not of course. No, of course not.
Barry, do you want to just come back on this?
Yes, I have parted with quite a few clothes, but I need her daughters to come here, because it is a hard process, and really it gives you a feeling that in some way there's still a presence of them here. That's how I perceive it, as if she's still really around in a way. But maybe everyone feels that. I don't know. But I've got that much stuff. I've got outbuildings. I had a lot more outbuildings in a warehouse, and I had about 400 boxes of paperwork, from decades of being in business. And one of the girls who was working for me, we spent hours going through everything, checking there was nothing. In the end, we just got the lot and took them down to a farmer friend. We've had a big bonfire.
Isn't that interesting that you've been hanging on to it all, and when you actually start to check it, because you've got the room, but when you actually start to check it, you realise there's nothing in here that matters.
Well, I was always concerned that maybe there was something of value in there.
The Inland Revenue will be after you.
Well, I mean, once you're over 7 years old, all your paperwork, and you can dispose of it anyway. But, I'm talking about stuff from the latter part of the 1960s and 1970s. And I had newspapers from, 1980, 1990 that I'd never even read. I mean, it's insane. And I'd go to auctions, I'd came back with a Victorian horse-drawn hearse one day, came back with a human skeleton and stuffed crocodile on another day.
Did you need those things?
And I've got books.
Did you need those things, Barry?
And books from charity shops. I've got hundreds of them. I don't know why the heck I bought them.
Barry, thank you very much indeed. I'm identifying horribly with you here, because I think if I saw a stuffed crocodile or a human skeleton I could bring home, I might just bring it home. And
you might never come across one again, Jonathan.
Exactly, that's the problem, isn't it? Let's talk to Susan, who's in Northampton. Good morning, Susan. Good morning. Hi there. Are you a hoarder?
Yes, but I also turn it into a business. But I can even if you don't like me and haven't turned it into a business, I do think that you say, oh, you can go down to the shop and buy some elastic bands. Oh, you can go and buy this. The point is, if you save that bit of string from, say I'm a big gardener and I don't just string all my raspberry canes and then throw what's left away, next year I can use it. Now, there are a lot of people, you'll see them at the beginning of the spring going down to the nursery buying new. But I keep my string and my bits and bobs to use for next year. Now, surely that's a way of saving money.
All right, I'm just wondering whether you're entering into a very believable real process here of justification for something that you know is probably not the best thing for you. I can quite understand why you're doing it. I just want reflections of my guest this morning, Hannah, because this is exactly what Susan does. You know, I've got kitchen drawers that I haven't opened and I could actually do for storage for day-to-day stuff that I really do use, but I can't put anything in them because they're full of this junk that I'm hanging on to because I don't want to have to go out and buy it new, but I never do have to buy it new.
I do identify personally a little bit with you. Certainly when I was little, I used to keep lots of things in case they might come in handy. So I'm not one of those people that does just throw everything away.
What do you say when your clients, when you open the drawer or the cupboard and then they say to you, Hannah, I've got to keep all that because I'm hanging on to it because it may be of some value or it may be useful one day?
I think the sharing economy that is growing now is a really good way of being able to share those things that we've kept that might be useful with our neighbours, with those people around us. And then they're hopefully not in your house where they're in a drawer not being used and actually not being useful, but they're hopefully in a charity shop or with your next door neighbour's raspberry canes, where it is being useful because it's being used at that moment in time. When I'm with my clients, we always talk about what their end goal is. So for some people, their house might not be a problem with all their stuff around them. And I would say if it's organised, if you know where things are, then maybe it's not a problem. But Jonathan, like you with your drawers, if you've got stuff on your kitchen worktop that needs to go in those drawers, but those drawers are full up with stuff that you don't ever use, then maybe that's something when you need to think about, okay, let's have a look at what the end goal is. So we want a clear and clean kitchen surface. Yeah, so we're going to empty the drawer and we're going to pass it on to the charity shop where someone else is going to use it. And where it's not sat being useless in your drawer. Sorry.
Okay. You see, the ease with which a hoarder can find the justification for hoarding things. I have never thrown a mobile phone away. Okay, I've probably been through 8 or 10 mobile phones in my life. The other week, I don't know if you remember this, Nokia announced they were going to reissue a sort of a vintage and antique style mobile phone, not like a modern day smartphone, just a little basic. Guess who was able to go into the breakfast show studio and say to Kay, look what I got, it's the original.
Was it you, Jonathan?
It was me. And that's almost given me a feeling of justification for hanging on to obsolete bits of technology that I'm never going to use, I'm never going to need, and there we are. I found a reason to have it. I could go to Kay on the breakfast show, there it is, you don't need to go out and buy a new one, I've kept it. And that's pathetic, isn't it?
I think one of the great things
yes, says the producer next door. She's nodding furiously.
I think one of the great things now, though, there's so many ways that we can reuse and recycle materials. So, the mobile phones get broken down and they can recycle all individual components and be reused again.
They can stop digging up Africa for those rare earth minerals that they're ripping the planet apart for. I mean, that is quite a danger, isn't it, that you can... find justification. I just need one little crumb of justification, and that has given me every reason to have kept that drawer full of mobile phones all those years.
And as human beings, we're very good at doing that in all sorts of areas of our lives. So there'll be lots of other things that you might have kept which haven't given you that opportunity. But as you say, once you get one that actually confirms your behaviour, you will hang on to that and bring that out to sort of, confirm all the other things you did, because it's an important value for you in terms of hanging on to these things, because it might be useful and its moment will come.
Yeah, well, it's that great moment that all human beings seek. the ability to say, look, I was right.
Yes.
Look, I was right. We've come to the end of our time. It's been great to speak to you both this morning. Hannah, of course, you're there. You're a commercial business. You're an operation. People can get in touch with you. They can find you. Stuart, from a psychological point of view, from a medical point of view, people like yourselves with an understanding and a sympathy and an ability to help people who've got a really serious hoarding problem, are you unique, or are there others around like yourself?
There are other psychologists who work with people with hoarding problems. I mean, I think what people, would need to do if they had a significant problem, and maybe if there was a relative who could back up that the person had a significant problem, is speak to your GP about it. Try and get a referral to the local psychological service, and if they don't have people who are like specialists in it, if they could then get in touch with someone like myself or the other specialists who are around the country just to get some advice, because people who work using other approaches of psychology can quite quickly adapt their general, say, CBT or acceptance and commitment therapy skills in order to be able to help someone with a hoarding problem.
It's been great to speak to you both this morning. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on the programme. If you want to find out more about what Hannah does, then you'll find her at www.reviveyourspace.co.uk. She's got a very sympathetic outlook on those who've got a bit of a problem. She's not going to come storm into your home and insist you throw everything away. Stuart, we thank you again for joining us for on another occasion on the programme. You don't have to give me the booklet this time, because you gave it me last time, and of course I've still got the booklet.
You could have another one.
No, I don't want another one. I don't. Well, actually, maybe I should have a backup copy in case something bad happens to. You don't think so?
No, Jonathan. Just one is plenty.
Plenty. Thank you very much indeed.